Well, hi everyone. I hope you're well, and thanks for joining us for another episode of CyberWins. We have a very, very special guest today in Toma. Now, Toma once designed a training program so intense it turned 125 raw recruits into production-ready engineers for Israel's most elite intelligence unit. Today, he architects autonomous combat aircraft systems and runs a side project teaching reinforcement learning to fire suppression planes in his spare time, as we all do. The question isn't whether he sleeps, it's whether he thinks the rest of us are moving too slowly. Really good to have you on the call, Toma. I really appreciate it. If you wouldn't mind just giving us a bit of color around your background there, that'd be great.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks very much. Appreciate it. So yeah, no, too many things on my plate, as you said, quite nicely. But yeah, so I'm Tomer. I'm 47 years old, from Israel, born and raised. I'm half Kiwi. I lived 7 years in New Zealand for a short while. And my background is very technical. I'm very deep tech type guy. I started my career as a technical guy, and then I shifted into more management. But now I'm sort of coming back full circle and doing a lot of hands-on in architecture, algorithm and AI stuff. And in general, I worked in a lot of startups. I'm very much sort of an entrepreneur in my, by heart, I guess. But in the last few years, I've joined the sort of the defense sector here in Israel, and have been exposed to a lot of very interesting AI related projects in general.
Nice, wonderful.
Got
And you
three
must be
kids
a
as well. Yeah,
oh, nice, great,
it's
great.
important.
And you must also be a musician as well, unless that guitar is just a well placed prop there. I can see.
Exactly. It's
Yeah,
yeah, it's a icebreaker. Yeah,
yeah,
I like
yeah.
playing the
Nice,
guitar and the piano.
nice,
Yeah, absolutely.
beautiful, cool, cool. Now, you struck a chord with me with something you just said there, and I know I told you. Spoiler alert! I told him what the first question was going to be, and it was about a recent cyber win. But I actually need to change that because of something that he said. So, if you could speak to the Toma of I don't want to. I know you told us your age, but I don't want to be too presumptuous. But the Toma for 20 years ago, the Toma who was only hands-on keyboard, probably didn't do much people management or business management. What would you say to the younger Toma 20 years ago to kind of prepare themselves to be better suited to where you're at now? What would be the cheat code that you'd send yourself?
That's a good question. I wasn't prepared for that, but
Yeah,
let me
surprise.
think about that for a moment. Yeah, it is a surprise. Um, I guess, look, from a personality perspective, I'm pretty much the same, and I enjoy being, you know, too many, having maybe too many balls up in the air at every single point in time. But I guess one thing I would probably say is stick the course, because I think when I was younger, I was more impatient, I guess, and I was trying a lot of things, and getting maybe bored maybe very quickly. And obviously, as you learn, as you become wiser, is that sticking the course gets you better results over time. So it's like a marathon and not a sprint. Even though, as a side thing, I've done track and field and do a sort of sprint training and competition and competing. So I think sticking the course, patience, and following through with studies, because I'm now filling up some of those academic studies that I didn't finish when I was a bit younger.
Yeah, nice, great, awesome. Sorry to throw the curly one just to
No, it's
start us
fine.
off.
I like challenges.
Cool. In this world that we live in, maybe it's my personality type. It could be similar to yours. Lots of balls in the air, and getting distracted from one project to another. But sticking the course. I think that's nice and simple. That's good advice. I like it. But I mean, the great thing is that even without being able to give yourself that advice through a time machine, you still ended up where you are. So I still, even without that advice from a 20-year older Toma, you still managed to get where you are. So that's cool. Now, the show is called CyberWins, and I know that your area of focus is more around the AI space, less like the traditional cybersecurity stuff. But what I'd like to ask you is in terms of cyberspace and the industry, and AI and everything, what's a recent win that you've seen happening, kind of in the community or in the industry that has made you think, okay, maybe we're going to be okay? Because lots of people are talking about bad things that have happened with cyber and the worries about AI, but I'd love to know what you think some of the good parts are.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a very sensitive area because a lot of people are losing their jobs, quote unquote, because of AI and the industry. I guess the good thing, I'll probably split it and divide it into two parts. I mean, one part is that AI creates a lot of general AI, like generative AI, and the more public sort of accessible AI is creating a lot of opportunities, and almost everybody can build an app or build a business and create value, and that's incredible. I think it gives even like truck drivers an ability to build an app and sell it. So it's solo entrepreneurs is becoming sort of a significant market in the world, and I think that's a great plus. On the flip side, people that are in the industry, like developers or engineers, and all the way up to even architects and project management, they have to reinvent themselves. So it creates both a challenge and opportunity. So for me, as an example, I've taken this as an opportunity for me, and I've dived deep into the sort of hands-on algorithms and that sort of machine learning space. I was always interested in that, and I was always on the sideline. But 2.5 years ago, I decided to jump in, and lucky for me. I mean, today, like you talked about CyberWins, I'm personally involved in coding some algorithms in the detection, classifications, and all that type of stuff in the defense space. But it that creates an opportunity. People that have to reinvent themselves or want to reinvent themselves, it creates an opportunity.
Yeah, and I think, look, if you're not willing to reinvent yourself, like there's always big shifts in industries, not just the IT, but in kind of lots of different industries. Often because of some IT change, admittedly, that require people to kind of reinvent themselves. And so I think it's just like about being a human and being adaptable. It's like, yes, there might be certain jobs that are at risk, but there's also more jobs that can be created because all those apps need people to run them. And if you were using AI to lower the barrier to entry to certain roles because you can be assisted by AI, then the people who otherwise wouldn't have had a job can now become competitive. And maybe those people who were in entry level roles can go up, one level of skill because again, they're assisted by the AI. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I like the reference you made to like someone like a truck driver, not in IT, going in and making an app. I'm going through my own struggles now, trying to build a few different apps just for my own use and that kind of stuff. And it's fun. There's still challenges, but it's good. And I think technology is catching up. Like it probably would have only been 12 or 18 months ago that a lot of companies were just like, no AI, no ChatGPT, because people are putting in like customer emails and quote numbers and all that kind of stuff. And various security vendors various security vendors are putting in extra functions in their applications to facilitate, safe use of AI, and a lot of AI policies are changing to allow you to access everything, but they still will just check and make sure there's no data loss and all that kind of stuff. So, an exciting time to be getting into it. I suppose there's a lot of times in the last 20 years that you could have said it's an exciting time to be in the IT industry because there's so many fun and cool things happening. Did you ever have to in your career? Were you ever in the a lot of people say you've got to start as like a level 1 help desk person. Did you manage to skip that part, or were you ever kind of on the IT front lines there, or did you like me? I managed to skip that part of my career.
It's a good question. I like it. It's full of surprises. Well, actually, thinking about it now, yeah, I started my career as I remember it was internet help desk. I was
Wow.
taking calls for people that were having, difficulty connecting to the internet. Back in the day when you had like 14,400 sort of kilobits per second or something. I can't
Yeah,
remember, like
yeah,
modems and
yeah.
the ADSLs and all these things. I remember like dial-ups. So I do remember that. I didn't like it, but I remember doing it because it sort of got me. I was 17, I think, at the time, something like that. So definitely started there somehow.
Yeah, nice. That's the kind of the Toma that I was describing, who you'd be giving the advice to. So it's funny that's when you started
Yeah,
through that. Now, I've
yeah.
seen you, and I want to know how much the domain cost you, but your readme.md page. Now, how did that all come about? What is that? That just seems like a fun thing that you've got there up running at the moment. Tell us about how you kind of made that, which I guess would be one of the side projects or one of the balls in the air that you've got at the moment.
Yeah, I guess I think with probably look at it as a timeline thing. I think when don't remember exactly when, but the AI on one part creates a lot of interest and excitement because you can very quickly code stuff or build stuff using prompts. But then very quickly, if you're a past engineer or an existing engineer, you get lost in the quality and sort of spaghetti code. And then I became a bit late to the game with all the agents MD and all the MD instructions basically and
Yeah.
skills and all these things to control the AI in a way that you want it or that basically mimics how you would code if you would code. So I sort of was a bit late to that game, and then it took me a while to adopt and understand the usage of MD in regular coding. So I guess
And
for
so
me,
just to
uh,
take a step back, the just explain what an MD file does for when you're interacting with your
sure.
agent. Yeah, just in case people don't know.
Sure, yeah. So MD file is basically an instructions file. MD is I forgot the acronym actually. What does it
Markdown.
stand for? Markdown, that's right, Markdown. So it's a special formatted file, it's text file that could be read by word processors like Microsoft Word or other sort of known processors. But also it became a de facto sort of standard for agents or LLMs to use as a context, like as a context instructions and to some extent guardrails or
Source of
guidelines of how to
truth.
do whatever. Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So and every coding agent like a Codex or Windsurf or whatever or Cursor have their own MD type files, but there is a common denominator which is like an agents.md file which you place in the root folder of any project, and you place there all the guidelines, and you can also point to other MD files such as architecture or Git usage and all these types of things. And that is also external to skills, which is even more sort of functional stuff that you can add to any project. So it's basically guidelines, So it's and for me, what I'm using it today is I'm trying to, as I said before, like trying to adapt it to my way of coding, which is not necessarily the best practice, but I like seeing certain inline documentation or certain design patterns from back in the day, the Gang of Four, which is still like the master of design patterns, sort of the holy grail of the design patterns book that I remember reading when I was 20 or even 19, and it's still valid until today, right? So everybody can basically customize their own style or the agents to work in the way that they would like to. They would have worked without agents. I guess that's what I
Mhm.
would say.
Nice, great, awesome. Now you won the Henry Ford Health Strengthening the Nursing Workforce Challenge. Could you tell us a bit about what that challenge was?
Yeah, that was a cool experience. I founded a startup called I Know AI
Hmm.
3.5 years ago or so. With the originally the premise was to build a an AI system that could automatically detect aggression in daycare centers, because violence in daycare centers in Israel is a massive problem,
Wow.
unfortunately, and it's also a problem in the rest of the world. But in Israel, it became significantly a significant big problem for multiple reasons, which I won't go into right now. So with my tech background, I wanted to build an AI system that detects it automatically from CCTV cameras. And then I did a lot of market research, and I very quickly found that it's a very difficult and problematic market. Like the private daycare sector is very difficult for multiple reasons: union issues, regulation,
Daycare
compliance,
or
privacy.
healthcare? Sorry to interrupt. Is it like healthcare
No, no,
or
it's
actual daycare, like where
no, no,
the
no. It's daycare, child
yeah,
daycare,
wow.
toddlers. Yeah,
Okay,
that's where I
wow.
started.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
wow.
that's where I started.
Mm,
And it's still I've still got sort of a long tail thread until today, working with the Israeli police, trying to help them with their investigations of when
wow.
parents basically complain that they think something might have happened to their child.
Mm.
They file a complaint, and then the police look at the videos of that daycare center. But as I was going through this process and doing research on the market of how much sort of potential this market has, I suddenly got inbound calls from hospitals and psychiatric healthcare
Ah,
centers specifically saying, "Hey, we've got a problem of violence in our centers. We need a solution for this." Specifically, psychiatric and emergency rooms (ER), because the violence there is the highest amongst all the health types verticals, I guess. And that sort of got me more curious, I guess, about that vertical. So I started conversations with multiple health organizations, and I found that it's actually true. And then I heard about the Henry Ford sort of challenges, American enterprise that basically has some links to Israel, and they often once a year come to look for technology that could, certain technologies that can help them with their, burning problems. So they did a challenge with multiple problems that they wanted to solve, and I applied for that challenge with my startup. And I was surprised, but we won first place because there were other startups that were more advanced in the TRL space, TRL life cycle. Sort of the product was more mature. They were actually selling to, using other things like other sort of value points, automating doctors' sort of processes and whatnot. And we were very, very early stage, just idea almost stage. And they chose us to basically we won that challenge, and they told us this is a massive problem. So that the violence towards staff is a major problem that causes them to, on at the bottom line, lose money because health workers have to take time off or they're injured and they have to be treated, and so
Mm.
on and so forth. And that market is suffering from a lack of good quality workers. So anyway, so that was very interesting. And then we started along a process of finalizing the deal, and we signed a contract and whatnot. But then the cherry on top is not a cherry because at the end, business as business is reached a point where they said we actually going through a merger. We're merging with another
Ah,
health organization, and we're dropping the project.
damn, damn, damn.
So
The
yeah,
right project at the wrong time, I guess. Damn.
exactly. Timing is
Yeah.
everything in life. That's yeah, exactly.
Well, look, I mean, it's very unfortunate, but it's not a problem that's going away. I just saw something in the news the other day of a nurse that was attacked by someone in an emergency room, but the nurse happened to know jujitsu, and they've sorted themselves out.
Look at
And
that.
one of the comments, I shouldn't make light of the situation, but one of the comments was saying that the nurse should be given a doctorate with a specialist in anesthesiology because he put the person to sleep. With the
Nice,
so
nice.
yeah, it's a grim joke to make. So apologies to the audience. Anyway, that's very exciting and truly the right project at the unfortunately the wrong time, but hopefully that's something that you can spin back up again when the opportunity presents itself. Yeah, very interesting. Now,
Wow.
you spent some interesting time training a whole bunch of people. I believe it's 125 Unit 8200 recruits over a course of 6 months. Now, it's no secret that Australia and various other different countries have an issue with our skills gap. It's constantly being lamented in cyber and AI sectors. But you kind of industrialize talent production at scale. That's a whole bunch of people trained quite well. What do you think Australia is getting wrong, and how we're filling this gap? Is it education? Is it the work itself? It seems to be there's a lot of people doing courses, but we still have this skills gap. I'm not sure if the skills gap is throughout the whole ladder of employment, like kind of roles. Is the skills gap only at entry level? Is it that medium and senior leadership so we can fill a whole bunch of junior roles, but not enough people to fill up those senior roles? Is there anything that we can take away from the experience that you've had in Israel there, or?
Very interesting. Look, I'll be a bit humble about the Australian market. I'm not. I don't know the insides of the market specifically, but I could probably refer to the New Zealand market that I've known for quite a few years, also because I've lived there for 7 years and the past, and I still have links and connections with friends and business. I think it's even I've spoken recently to a lot of people in Australia and in the defense tech and the deep tech sector, and I think it seems like it's a mindset thing. It's not specifically a capability building or courses, available courses or anything like that, because I think there's a lot of available courses and probably high quality course, online and in-person sort of courses. I think it's a mindset that maybe it cannot be significantly changed because Australia is Australia, I guess, or New Zealand as well. In my perspective, it's a it's a calm and it's a no worries type environment. So everything is fine, everything is okay. Nobody feels a real threat. I guess personal security or general security, even though the defense sector in Australia is very active and bubbling and is focusing on a lot of high priority sort of projects, I'm sure from what I've seen. But I think I'll give a contrast from Israel. I guess Israel as a country is has always been under threat, both from our neighbors, close neighbors, and distant neighbors, and throughout history. So I guess it sort of creates a mindset of cracking and breaking stuff and being quick. And I think that mindset sort of help. It's a plus and a minus, right? But on the plus side, it helps create a lot of innovation, a lot of um, technology explorations, Nobel prizes and so on. Whatever people are significantly investing in and trying to break rules type thing. And I suspect, I'm not saying again because I'll try and be humble, but I suspect because the culture in APAC, I guess in general, is more relaxed. Not APAC, but Australia, New Zealand, is more relaxed, and I think it creates a shift and more. It's okay, no worries, we'll do it tomorrow type thing, and it takes a bit longer to achieve the same things that other parts of the world achieve. That's sort of my very like 2 cents of my perception, and maybe even on the market. But it seems like there's a lot of opportunities, and I think specifically I come back to the defense sector. I think that's where even in Israel, but also in the world, it's a very fast growing sector, and I think there would be a lot of opportunities in that space to grow skills in addition to AI, which adds a lot of capability for everybody to learn very quickly. So I think both the defense and AI would be a growing sector, and I think maybe Australia should do maybe more to attract talents, opportunities, create opportunities that would be interesting to other people. And again, I'll think. I still think defense because Australia has a lot of active defense sort of projects and very strong links with the US, which is also very interesting. So I think there should be more invested in stuff that we see here in Israel quite common or commonplace, like more investment into startups, which is always like a sort of a starting point of building of strengthening a community of innovation. But then also trying to bring and create a lot of interest by having very interesting projects or challenges, set up a lot of challenges, funded by government or funded by different sectors such as defense or health, maybe that would attract international, competitors, startups or business. But the same, I'll just wrap it up because I'm sort of rambling a little bit. But I think the same challenges that Australia and New Zealand to me seems like it's not a go-to market because it's so far away and it's not maybe significant as Europe or the US. So I think building those bridges around AI and defense and with these sort of geographical regions and strengthening them and growing them would probably be a good investment long term.
Interesting. Like that, I was thinking about grants as well and supporting those the small businesses coming up because I'm sure there's a lot of really good ideas bubbling away in people's heads that could turn into massive things. But for people having the confidence to walk away from their steady job,
Yeah.
there needs to be some kind of safety net for people to be able to take that first leap out and take that jump like you've done with the projects that you've been a part of. So hopefully the tide turns with that a little bit in Australia, and we can get some more support for those startups. There are certainly grants. There's grants for developers and all that kind of stuff, but I don't think most people know about them. There's tax breaks and that kind of thing. But hopefully something more formal comes up. Now, we're getting towards the end of the period of time that we have set aside for this. Unfortunately, as people who have viewed this show before know, I always apologize because I should leave like an hour and a half aside to keep chatting. I'm not sure if people would still be online if I've been chatting for any length of time in that hour and a half, but um,
Yeah.
uh, I'd love to come in and have you again for part two of this, where I can finish off the rest of the questions that I have. But I've only got time for one or two more. So I wanted to know this one is a little bit of a techie, like a more deep technical question. So your I know AI and Matrix roles, in fact, we might have to tell us a bit about Matrix as well. They both involve real-time detection of anomalous events from sensor feeds, one in hospital wards and one in contested airspace. What is the same about those architectures, and what is quite different, would you say, in terms of the how they're processed?
Okay. So I guess start with Matrix maybe because Matrix is it's a professional services company. I work with them on multiple projects, primarily around defense. And a lot of the work there is real time. It's basically running pipelines in real time. So it's a major challenge because the complexity of the use cases grows for getting operational readiness. So real time meaning everybody start with Python because you do you work with TensorFlow or PyTorch or whatever to build your machine learning algorithms or even classical algorithms. Doesn't have to be machine learning for doing detection, tracking, and classification, and all these types of things. Has to be super quick. Has to be super accurate. Um, the requirements is not like what you see on LinkedIn. Everybody posts, I've done this object detection, like car detection thing, projects, blah blah blah, and or you read research papers that talk about even 92% accuracy or high F1 score or whatever. So here we're talking about one false positive in an hour of a live video feed. As an example, and it has to be very quick, very. So one of the projects, as an example, I'm working on right now, we are a group of 4 to 8 algorithm engineers or researchers. It's sort of like healthily competing against each other, trying to build
Nice.
the fastest and most accurate sort of pipeline for a particular problem, and detection and classification. And and I think with that, it seems like first of all, there's money set aside for this because it's a challenge that needs to be resolved. But technologically, we're exploring multiple options. So Python, and drilling down into quantization or whatever, all these types of things that people are aware of these days to shrink the models, or even migrating to C++ and basically building it either on Rust or C++ because there's a huge latency decrease when you do that. So that we're exploring basically all options to make it real and make it real time. Um, and most often the pipeline itself becomes very it's a multi-stage pipeline. It's not just YOLO, it's not just CNN, it's a combination of things. So it takes a long time to get to a point where you want to get to. And just briefly about my INO experience as a startup, it's more and also VLM. VLM is becoming very prominent in solutions. Small VLMs, not the general VLM, but it's basically fine-tuning small VLMs for very specific tasks
Mm.
because then it runs very fast on the first instance, takes less memory, and taking models and shrinking them further to tens and hundreds of megabytes running in the RAM, and that also is relevant for my INO experience where we need to analyze very complex behavior between specifically like the daycare space working with the police. So a caregiver and child interaction where with the classical methods of maybe pose estimation and tracking and re-ID and all these things would be an approach, but the length of time of R&D effort and ROI would not be good enough. And with VLM, you can get much faster results, fine tuning with some examples. You won't get maybe the same level of accuracy, but you will get much faster results, sort of like a very quick process to get some initial value. So I think in general, what I see is that the small VLMs is becoming very solid in almost any solution that I see. In vision, right? Image, video, whatever, all these types of
Mm.
things. But also very complex and real-time pipelines that's pushing the boundary to make it more accurate and faster, basically.
Great, nice, nice. A lot to dig into in that. I'm excited to re-listen to the recording of this. I have a small list of acronyms that I'm looking up that I'll be looking up after after the call as well.
Sure.
So thank you for broadening my horizons. Now, unfortunately, it is towards the end of the recording, so I'll just wrap things up very briefly. You have architected systems for very demanding operational environments. You have trained elite intelligence engineers and built tools to protect the most vulnerable. And now you're stepping into a new area, a new country with fresh eyes. If we reconvene in 5 years, what do you want the thing that you spent the last 5 years on to be? Like, what is the impact that you want to make over the next 5 years in Australia with your level of expertise and experience that you have, kind of multifaceted experience that you have?
So what would I see in 5 years in Australia? I mean,
Yeah,
with my sort of background and experience.
yeah. What's the impact that you want to make? Yeah.
I guess my vision, I guess, looking forward, I guess, taking the technology like with INO, taking the technology that I'm building with the police, Israeli police here to, and also both in Israel and Australia and other places to be sort of a de facto sort of technology, sort of baseline technology that
Mm,
exists in any care setting and care environment. So it's constantly monitoring and checking that the quality of care is good, and if not, it reports in a privacy oriented sort of fashion,
mm,
I guess. And on the sort of adjacent sort of channel, I guess, is being able to see AI capabilities that are more operationalized, mainly around autonomous sort of behavior, I guess, both military and defense oriented, which is what I'm focusing on in this sort of period in my life,
mm,
but also not only. I mean, so looking at other additional capabilities that basically improves the quality of life. Oh, I remember what I wanted to say now. One of my passions and interests is humanoids. So
mm.
for me, in 5 years, I would like to see humanoids more common in households and doing the house chores that everybody hates. That sort of would be my vision. I've actually tried to invest in one of the humanoid companies, and I didn't do it at the end because I found out that it's a huge market. I thought it wasn't huge, but there's so many competitors out there. So I think humanoid market, I'd probably see it in me contributing and with my experience to pushing that further into the market.
Yeah, wow, that's very admirable for a number of reasons. Firstly, doing jobs that no one wants to do is a fantastic thing. I'd even be interested to see if there was a crossover with healthcare and humanoid aspect as well. I'm sure there probably is in some way, shape, or form. Smarter people than I can figure out what that is. But the healthcare side and the vulnerable members of our community side, it's a very interesting line of thought. It's certainly something that needs to be addressed, and we kind of sit in a really nice time in the world where some of those things are starting to become achievable in a nice conscientious and private way where it has to be, and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm very much looking forward to that conversation in 5 years as well. But indeed, hopefully we can get you on much sooner than that. Toma, I have to say thanks very much for your time. I really, really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to meeting you in person when next opportunity comes up. But in the meantime, I'll see you then.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, mate. Bye.